Hello, this is Belinda, your Maryland realtor, and today I am going to talk to you about what to look for when hiring a real estate agent. All right, so the obvious question is, why do you need to hire a real estate agent? And the obvious answer is because you are either trying to sell or buy a home and have legal representation. So today, let's stick to the buyer side. Well, I spoke to you last week in my previous video. I talked about why is it even necessary to hire a real estate agent. And if you remember, I mainly focus on the representation that a real estate agent gives you when hiring them. And I also pointed that in most cases, especially as a buyer, you do not need to pay your real estate agent any fees when you're hiring them. So, building up on that, and the reason sometimes that you do not have 98% of the time, to be exact, you do not need to pay your real estate agent is because the listing agent or the seller's agent, he is the person who actually kind of splits their commission with the buyer's real estate agent. However, there are some conditions, some circumstances in which you do not have that representation. So let me give you an example. So for sale by owner. For sale by owner is basically when the seller is trying to sell the home without having a legal representation. So which is it's legal, you can do that. So you, even as a buyer, you can purchase a home without having a real estate agent. But it's just if you check out my video, I will tell you, I told you why is it important to hire a real estate agent on the buyer side, and also even on the listing side, the benefit of hiring a real estate agent versus doing it yourself. But anyway, things happen. Sometimes people have had bad experiences in hiring a real estate agent. Some sellers had bad experiences hiring a real estate agent and decide to sell the home on their own. So in that case, the seller does not include any commissions. So what if you find a house, let's say you were strolling down the street or the street across from you, or if you have a family member or you have a friend who tell you, hey, I know that you're trying to buy a home, and I have my neighbor across the street or down the road who is selling their home. So come check it out, and you really want to live close to either your family member or your friend, but that house is only for sale by owner, and your real estate agent will not be able to see it on the MLS because those for sale by owners, since they are not represented by a real estate agent, so that home will only be available for people who are walking by, and if it's listed on a for sale by owner site. So in that case, what do you tell your real estate agent? Well, I want to see this house, or you went and saw it, you talked to the owner, and you really like the house and you want to buy the house, and you tell your real estate agent. So there are two scenarios that can work in that way. The real estate agent can tell you when that scenario appears that, well, I will not represent you unless you pay me 3% of the commission. So which is typical in our business. 3% of the commission, since it's a for sale by owner. I will go and talk to the seller and then ask them if they can pay that commission for you, or try to negotiate with the seller on a one-on-one. But this is also one of the questions that you need to ask when hiring a real estate agent. You know, if that scenario comes into play, what would you do? Do I have to pay? And if that's the case, then it needs to be drawn up in your buyer broker's agreement. All right, so I think that's not really the number one question that you need to ask, but it's probably in one of the questions that you need to ask. But going forward, so the first question I think that you need to ask is, just like in most interviews that you probably have been part of, is to ask them to tell you a little bit about themselves. Well, it's just kind of cliche when they ask you during an interview, well, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And then they have your resume in front of you, and then they expect you to basically tell them what you've been doing in your career. But I would ask that you ask them those questions in order to really find who they are, because you need to have a connection with that real estate agent to really know the personality, to know who they are, so that you really know who you're working with, who you will be working with, who will be assisting you in making this one of the most expensive purchase that you'll probably have to do, transaction that you have to do, in your lifetime. Ask them about themselves, and listen for things that they will tell you. And then the second question is to ask them why they're in the business, why they're doing real estate. Are they just doing it because they like it? Are they doing it because they want some money? Are they doing it because they want some additional income? Or whatever the reason is, ask them and then find out. And based on the answer, you'll be able to assess whether it's a right fit or not. And another question that you need to ask them is whether they're working alone or they're working in teams. If they're working alone and you are fine with it, then you need to follow up with a series of questions such as what is your style, what is your mode of communication, so how should we communicate with you, and is it okay for you to communicate with them in the middle of the night? You may be a night owl, scouting for homes in the middle of the night, and you need to tell them right away. Is it okay for you to do that, or you have to wait for somebody, you have to wait for the next day, and maybe you guys are working on 2 different schedules, so you need to know that up front. And if they tell you that they're working in a team, so you need to know kind of the roles and responsibility of each team members, and then if you can meet any or all of the team members as well. Because when people work in team, when real estate agents work in teams, so typically they will have maybe somebody who just handles all the paperwork. You'll probably have another person who just handles the showing, when you see houses that you like, and then that person will go with you to those different houses to show you those different houses. And you have another person who will probably walk you through being pre-approved. You will have another team member who will walk you through the inspection. You will have another team member who walks you through the appraisal process, and you have another team member who will walk you through the entire paperwork, so basically telling you where your loan is standing, as you're communicating, as you're having back and forth communication with the title company. And you probably will have another one who will walk you through the closing process. So you will need to probably talk to at least some or maybe of the key players into that transaction of the team, so you will need to ask that. And then another question that I think that's very important to ask is to ask them how long they've been in the business. I would say do not focus so much on if they tell you, well, I've been in the business for only a couple of years, or 1 year, I'm a newbie into the business. Don't discount them, because many times, those who are new into the business, they are trying to build up the clientele. They're trying to basically save their reputation. So they're trying to build, a nice reputation, and they'll be a little more careful during the transaction, and, they'll be able to walk you through. So the follow-up question with that, if somebody tells you that they knew, and hopefully they are honest with you, and then they're telling you exactly that they knew, you will need to ask them if they have a mentor. And you need to ask them, how long the mentor has been in the business. So if the mentor has also been in the business for 1 or 2 years, then that might be a red flag, because you basically have the blind leading the blind, and this is a very important purchase that you have to make. So you will need to ask them how long the mentor has been in the business, and if possible, if you can talk to them, and they can kind of walk you through different type of scenario, things that you should expect, and so on and so forth. So these are basically some of the main questions that you need to ask. And then one of the last questions, it's not really a last question, because an interview, I believe that great interviews work as a conversation. Yes, you will have your point, you will have basically a framework of questions that you need to ask, and that you need to have answers so that you can base your decision by those answers. But I think it's very important to know also, what are your expectations? What are your expectations? What is the agent expectation of you? And what should the agent also expect from you? What should you expect from your agent and what your agent should expect from you. So this is just to clear up the air, so to know each party's roles and responsibility, and know based on that answer that they will provide you, you will know whether you should hire them or not, right? So if they tell you that my roles are X, Y, and Z and it doesn't gel with you, or your responsibility is X, Y, and Z and it doesn't gel with you, then you will have to move on to the next person and then talk to the other agents. I mean, there are many agents in the United States. In my state alone, there are over 5,000 agents. So it's sometimes finding the right agent is like finding that needle in the haystack. So I'm not asking you to interview 5,000 of them, but you will pick based on who you know, whether it's, I always say, don't just hire an agent because you've seen that person on social media, because you've seen that person's been working with your mom, with your dad, or with your family members, with your friend, because sometimes, they might be able to gel with your friend or your family member, but that connection with you is not really what you want. You know yourself, you know your style, you know who you basically want to work with, and I just think it's a very necessary step to take when you're hiring your real estate agent. So I hope that this information that I provide has been helpful. Please like, comment, and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel. I will talk to you later. This is Belinda, and I help people build generational wealth with real estate. I'll talk to you later.